ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रं यहमहमिति साक्षादात्मरूपेण भाति। हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता वा पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वं। यस्यान्तन्नादिमध्यं न हि करचरणं नामगोत्रं न सूत्रं नो जातिर्नैव वर्णा न भवति पुरुषो नानपुंसं न च स्त्री नाकारं नो विकारं न हि जनिमरणं नास्ति पुण्यं न पापं तत्त्वं नो तत्त्वमेकं सहजसमरसं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। தமிழில் தொடங்கலாம்னு நான் அது பார்க்குறேன், கண்டினியூ பண்ண முடியாது. We started this satsang in Tamil. Now it has naturally transformed to English. Here we are contemplating on Bhagavan's Ulladu Narpadu. 40 verses on about or on self-realization. It is pure, unadulterated Vedanta. Essence cream. You are finding it difficult to listen, then you have to sit near the speaker, no other way. So, Ulladu Narpadu, the first two verses, the Mangala Venpam, we have already finished. So, we started this satsang with the most auspicious word that Bhagavan used is Ulladu. Ulladu means that which is truth. Ulla unarvu, the awareness of one's own existence. That is the seed that everyone is carrying in their heart. A guru, a master can only just indicate it. That is why he is called as Deshika. Deshika means one who just indicates. It is here in you. It is not only in human beings, it is in every creature. Shankaracharya says in one of his very famous hymn, Manisha Panchakam, he says, Ya tiryang nara devatabhihi ahamityantasputa grihyate. Right from you can say an unicellular organism. From there to the highest devata, something is dancing within us, I. That is the only common element. The body is different, the mind is different. You can say good person, bad person, everything is different. But the consciousness within is the only changeless principle. The flame of truth, which we call Arunachala Deepam, is there inside everyone, which Bhagavan starts with Ulla Unarvu. I'm actually repeating because we have already spoken the entire these things in last 2 days, 2 or 3 days. But we can go on repeating this like a Nama Sankirtanam, because this is constant reminding us that the truth has already happened to you. The only thing that has to happen is the link. Your attention has to turn towards it. This noise, these things, we cannot do anything. This is samsara. But amidst all this chaos, there is that, Ramanashram, many aspirants, when they start meditating, they get irritated even with small sound. I'm going away from the topic, but it's helpful for sadhana. So one devotee told Kunjaswami, who was with Bhagavan, that Swami, the sound is so disturbing. That inner silence gets disturbed. Then Kunjaswami said, inner silence can never get disturbed. And in Bhagavan's presence, it is not normal sound. During that 1940 and onwards, they were constructing the temple. And with big kotti, that is what they say. They used to break the rocks. You just imagine that when you try to meditate, that hitting noise will come. With all that profound silence will be there, unless you get hold of that silence. This undisturbed state cannot remain. Okay. So, Ulla Unarvu, that Unarvu, the awareness of the self is within all, within every creature, as the I am. Actually, later on we started using the word I am. I think it came from I am that book. But before that, all Bhagavan's literature, we have only I. Aham. In Sanskrit, they use only aham. And the very language is such that the alphabet starts with A. In English also it is like that, A. And when you close it, it is Ha. And you close your mouth, it becomes M. So, the entire alphabets are included in it, that Aham. And Bhagavan says, it is the name of Arunachala. The real name of Arunachala is dancing within you in the heart as Aham, Aham, Aham. Naan endru idayam nadithiduvayal un per thaan idayam endriduvar. O Arunachala, you are dancing within me as Aham, Aham, I. And your very name is Hridayam. உள்ளம்ங்கிறது உன்னோட பேரு. அது உள்ளம் நீ இருக்கிற இடம் இல்லை, உள்ளமே பகவானோட ஸ்வரூபம். உள்ளம் ஆத்மஸ்வரூபமாக ஹிருதயத்தில் உள்ள பிரகாசிக்கிறது. The spiritual center is called Ullam. In Sanskrit we call it Hridayam. A center which when opens, you feel yourself as divine and everything as divine. Bhagavan gave so much importance to that. That is real initiation. In the presence of Bhagavan, it opened. For many, just a glance of Bhagavan, his look, his maunam, his presence, what magic did it do? It just opened the heart center. And the moment it is opened, you are not given any mantra. Just as in all spiritual traditions, the sadhaka is initiated to some spiritual seed. Mostly a mantra. Even in Christian traditions it is there, even in Islam it is there. Buddhist tradition also somehow it started happening. So some seed is given. We also use the word seed. Brahma bija. Brahma bija. Bija means seed. Brahma bija means the seed of Brahman. It can grow as a mighty spiritual experience within you. So generally some mantra is given. For Bhagavan also the mantra arose first, then only that death experience. The first thing is that he heard Arunachalam. And Bhagavan says in Aksharamanammalai, the moment I heard your name, something from within arose and pulled my mind deep within. And it revealed itself. First it was a name, then it was the essence of that nama. But when Bhagavan started initiating, he did not give any mantra. He made you recognize the mantra that is already inside you. The essence of mantra, something which is throbbing inside you, something which is in between pure consciousness and mind. The mind later on becomes matter. That para, pashyanti, madhyama, vaikhari. The vaikhari is the solid thing. And madhyama is something in between as thoughts. And this pashyanti, that is the name that they use, something which is palpable inside as a throb, as aham, I. Spandana. So that Bhagavan indicated, you hold on to it. It is within you as the expression of the self. Unarvu, the awareness. And that awareness is the Atma, the self, the Swarupa. So this Ulladu Narpadu started with that. The very first, say Aksharamanammalai. How did Bhagavan start? We have already walked a lot in that path. So the very beginning, it's a sampradaya. You start with the most auspicious shabda. So he started with what? Arunachalam. That is his nama. So he started the entire 108 songs. In the very first, the opening of the mouth is Arunachalam. There is a very well-known Tamil Shaiva Siddhanta, Shiva Bhakti work, Shiva Puranam. It's Tiruvachakam, the most profound bhakti literature here. Manikya Vachakar. There's a very big book you can see like this. But the very first beginning is Namah Shivaya. Then only it starts. Namah Shivaya Varga, Nathan Varga. First the Panchakshara is uttered, then he says, let it be victorious. Let the Panchakshara win over you. That Panchakshara is the opening. Namah Shivaya Varga. So, the Varga is not said before, but the first thing that is done is Namah Shivaya Varga. So, Bhagavan begins with Arunachalam, the divine name of his Sadguru, his Ishtadevata. And he says Arunachalam means your own Atma. Annamalai en Anma. Kanume. Arunachala is yourself. It is the Atma Swarupa. That is why during lockdown, they were complaining that we could not come to Arunachala. Then the message that was sent is, you can miss yourself, but you cannot miss Arunachala. You can miss your individuality. In deep sleep, every day, your own well-developed personality is gone. But the real Arunachala is present even there. The self is shining forth even there. Nee illanga, ana adu irukku. That is the only constant, changeless principle in the waking, in the dream and the deep sleep. So wherever you go, you cannot miss Arunachala. Otherwise, staying in Tiruvannamalai, you can miss. You have to always look at Arunachala, remember Arunachala. Looking at Arunachala, you can think something else. The mind will go somewhere. So Bhagavan says, this outer Arunachala can push your mind inward. We are very weak, so we need that help. That is why we need a guru, we need a scripture. Bhagavan has given us this scripture. We need a mantra. We need all the auxiliary sadhanas like purifying sadhanas like food, control, pranayama, anything that can help you to make your mind pure and push it inward is needed. It is all helpful. But ultimately, the mind has to turn inward and recognize that mantra inside. The thing which will be always with you wherever you go, which you can hold on to inside your heart, that Ulla Unarvu. So there the initiation is over. In all other Vedanta texts, they go on negating the body is not me, the mind is not me. Bhagavan also has done that. But the essence is, you directly go to what exists, what is. The existence, the changeless principle, the deathless thing. The moment your attention is there, Ullal ara ullatte ulladal. All the changes that are happening around you will not affect you. Ullal means change, thoughts. Nothing will affect you. Ullal will be there everywhere. Everything will be changing. Things will come and go. Moods will come and go. The body will be constantly changing. The mind will be active. But that truth remains like a rock. No, Arunachala. That is why it is given as the example, Arunachala. Yoga Vasishta uses an example as Mount Meru. He says, Antar Meror Ivastitihi. But Bhagavan has given us here solid thing, that like Arunachalam, You remain in the center. Bhagavan says Arunachala is the heart. Bhumi in idayam. And that Bhumi is your body. And Arunachala is the heart. And in the heart, you remain stable. So this is the first song that we already have seen. I am just briefing it again, that's all. And the next song is to stay in that state. The mind constantly is pushed out by the vasanas, and there are forces around you which are very much alive. They can constantly pull you out, disturb you. To be free of their influence, you need tremendous vairagya. Immense vairagya is needed. Dispassion is needed. Unless you have that kind of powerful dispassion, the mind will not stay inside. Once, one devotee wanted to ask Bhagavan, why even though I know that there is sorrow in the world, the mind is not staying in the self. It again and again goes out, runs out. So he wanted to ask this question. When he went to see Bhagavan, Bhagavan was catching hold of some small little squirrels, baby squirrels, and putting them inside a box. He will put them inside, they will again run out, jump out and run around. They will not go away from Bhagavan. The story is their mother squirrel, gave birth to 3 or 4 of these little ones, and that squirrel was eaten by a cat. And these little ones, they were very small. The devotee who told this story, he said they looked like small worms. They looked like worms. And Bhagavan took them in his finger, somehow fed them with honey. So they considered Bhagavan as their mother. But they will, when they grew up, they will jump out of that box and run around in the hall. Then when this devotee entered the room, Bhagavan said, see, these squirrels, they are unaware that the cat is waiting there. The cat which ate their mother is there. It is waiting for these squirrels to come there. They are unaware. But the moment they become aware, they need no help from us. They will themselves stay inside the box. But till they become aware of the cat, we have to help them by putting them back inside the box. Like that, the mind has to become aware that there is death around. When it becomes absorbs the fact that everything other than the self will die, then it will just roost in the self. It will get stabilized, established in the self. Marana Vayam Mikkulam Makkal. Makkal means very pure beings. You can say Bhagavan's life is few minutes of meditation on death. He just meditated on death and he recognized that his real nature is immortal. மிக்கு உள ரொம்ப ஆழமான மரண பயம் உள்ள வரணும். அப்பதான் உள்ள you become awakened. Last day I told that every sadhaka, a true meditator, has to encounter this fear of death inside him one day or the other. It might not come in the form of fear of death. It can appear as a mysterious fear, a causeless fear. Many have encountered that. Even Major Chadwick, when he was in the company of Bhagavan, one day he said, Bhagavan, for so many days I am not able to meditate. Some mysterious fear is there inside me. So this fear is widespread in every fiber of our body, our mind, our thought, our thinking. That fear is driving you here and there. The entire samsara is being held up by that fear. Unless you encounter that fear and blast that fear, fearlessness is not for you. The entire purpose of what we call as self-realization, it is not underneath some banyan tree. Your body is the banyan tree, and what a jnani finds inside him is absolute fearlessness. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, when Janaka found the truth, the king, when the teacher Yajnavalkya gave him the teaching, he said, first, it was step by step. The first stage, he said, I feel so much grateful to you. You have revealed me, given me this insight. I give you 1,000 gold coins. See, when devotees, when they come to satsang, they have so much love in their heart because they have got this knowledge. So they will bring fruits, bring money, bring clothes, something which they buy here, there. They feel, I should give it to the Guru. So they bring something because that is the expression of love. Like that, this king was also doing. Then Yajnavalkya said, no, I cannot accept. Till you have got the truth, I cannot accept. நீ இந்த அறிவை தெரிஞ்சுக்கிற வரைக்கும் உங்கள்கிட்ட எதுவும் வாங்கிக்க முடியாது. திருப்பி 1000. Every step he says, I will give you 1,000 cows with their horns studded with gold. He said, not now. And at last he says, I will give you my empire, Mithila. Yajnavalkya said, go further. Then at last the king said, I give you myself. Atmanam dasye. I am offering myself at your feet. Then Yajnavalkya stood up and said, Abhayam vai Janaka praptosi. Oh Janaka, you have attained fearlessness. Because the entire fear is condensed inside you as your individuality, as your ego. And it has spread out as your country, your family, your personal life, your money, your survival instinct, your various kinds of fear has come out of that seed of basic fundamental fear of death. You can see it in yourself. Fear is there. When the fear becomes intense, you take a ticket and come to Tiruvannamalai. Otherwise you would not have come. Otherwise you would have managed it with money, with some insurance policy, something you would have managed. So with some medical science, you would have managed your fear. When you recognize that nothing helps, Anyashrayanam tyagaha. Narada says in his Bhakti Sutra, the great insight is born inside you that there is no other refuge. Then you take refuge in God. Then the real refuge reveals itself to you. See, the purpose of satsang is to somehow recognize that substratum inside you, that adhisthana, which is the real refuge, which can give you absolute fearlessness. When devotee sings in Tamil, Tirunavukkarasar, he says, I do not fear even the god of death. Namanayum anjom, illaya? Anjuvadu yadondrum illai. Nothing can frighten me now. I will not fear anything, during like this corona. In Bhagavan's time there was plague. Although it was not widespread like corona, intensity was more. Especially in Tiruvannamalai, thousands of people died and dead bodies will be carried in bullock carts, and people, if they go near, they will catch it. So, you will not get people to drive bullock carts to take the dead bodies to the cremation ground. And who used to help them? It is Seshadri Swami. He used to drive the bullock carts and help them to take the body and put them in the crematorium. And military people were there, staying in Pavayakundru, near Pachayaman Kovil, and they had guns with them. And tigers actually not tigers, it is a cheetah. Small cheetah will be roaming here and there. Once in a while, tigers were also there. So they will be afraid. These military people, Bhagavan also was staying there at that time. They will say, Swami, please drop us in the road. Take us to the road, because tiger will be coming and they have gun. But Bhagavan has to help them, taking them to the road. So the fear has various forms. So the question of Vedanta is how to become fearless. Abhayam. We speak on Bhagavatam. And the last thing that the king who heard Bhagavatam, Parikshit, he says to Shukacharya, he says, you have revealed me fearlessness. Abhayam darshitam tvaya. We have to work on ourselves about this. This is self-enquiry. Self-enquiry is not a technique for meditation. Because meditation, mostly people think is something charismatic. It looks very attractive to sit like this. And you will get people to listen, disciples. These are all samsara. The real thing is, it is a medicine. Bhagavan calls it as the mountain herb. That is Bhagavan's words. Malai marundu. Bhagavan says, the knowledge of the self revealed by Arunachala is the most sacred mountain herb, which can heal you of the deep-rooted disease ego, which is much more dangerous than any other illness, any other disease. And to use that herb, first you have to protect yourself with vairagyam. with dispassion. And to generate that dispassion, you have to contemplate on death. Bhagavan never openly said you should have death experience. Instead of prescribing death experience, Bhagavan constantly spoke about the state of deep sleep which everyone is already having. Because in that state, you have the authentic experience of bodilessness, mindlessness, egolessness. Your very individuality is erased. The body is not there, the mind is not there, and you wake up wishing to go back. கொஞ்ச நேரம் கூட கிடைச்சா தேவையில்லை, தூங்கினா தேவையில்லை. There is no I which wants, I can enjoy. No I there. So you are loving that state. வினைக்கு ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம், நமக்கு அப்படியே பிரசன்னம் எடுத்து. The state of free of I, the state free of I is so inviting. That is the central teaching of Ulladu Narpadu. Bhagavan says, the state of truth is the state where there is no I. நான் உதியாது உள்ள நிலை, நாம் அதுவாய் உள்ள நிலை. See, this is real Bhagavad Gita. Warfield you teach self-knowledge. All kettle drums, trumpets, everything will be around. Just imagine what a grand imagery there Vyasa has given. Amidst, in the center of warfield, this knowledge has to be transmitted. Not inside some forest, some cave, some silent, still place. No. Around you have all noise. And there you find the silent one, the silent being. Okay. So, Marana Bhayam Mikkulavam Makkal. Again and again we have to say Marana Bhayam. The fear of death. And when it becomes intense for all those who have come fresh, today I am telling, do not be in a hurry to invite Shiva. Because if you invite Shiva, he comes in the form of death. Because his very form is death. So he can appear in your very system as a current, as a fear of death. That is one way that he will appear. Another way is pure samadhi, direct enlightenment. That is this bhasma, the last, everything is burnt and becomes pure white. So when you invite Shiva, Bhagavan thought about Arunachalam, and next moment Shiva came to him, to Madurai, as fear of death, Marana Bhayam, and not simply a passing fear, but directly as intense fear. Last day I told some story about my own life. That is only one side of it. But somewhere, when you continue your meditation, you have to reach that state where you come in encounter solid fear of death. And next moment, if the grace is there, Amritam chaiva mrityuscha sadasachaham Arjuna. In Gita, Bhagavan says, just like two sides of a coin, this side is Amritam, this side is Mrityu. One side is death, the other side is immortality. Here you have the poison, here you have the nectar. Here you have the darkness, here pure light. So when you encounter this side, you take a leap to the other side. In one leap, you recognize the deathless center inside you. The changeless, because one side is constant flux, change. You fully recognize it and jump back. And have the pratyabhijna. That's the Vedanta, essence of Vedanta. That word is pratyabhijna, recognition. Just like you are recognizing your own glass or your own some garland put in your neck, which is there. Like that very moment you recognize, I am deathless. I am the immortal being. It is not that I am not the body, I am the self. No, you recognize there is no body. Just as it happens in deep sleep, in the waking state, we call it as nirvikalpa samadhi. There is no question of sahaja nirvikalpa samadhi, etc. That we are not dealing now. Nirvikalpa samadhi means pure jnanam, where there is no vikalpa, where there is no dualistic movements, where there is no doubt. One moment, instantaneously you recognize that nirvikalpa in your very being, in your very existence. We call it nirvikalpa jnanam. Nirvikalpa jnanam, recognition of the self which is ever nirvikalpa. This happened in Bhagavan's life like this. See how simple it looks. No giving up of the family. No going to some forest. No full moon day. No banyan tree. Like Buddha's story I am saying, very charismatic. Very beautiful, very elevating, very inspiring. But in Bhagavan's life, you see it, no poetry is there. No poetry at all. You go and see that house in Madurai, it looks like a patikada. It's a very, very crowded place. Even now the house is bigger. Now that house is bigger, but that time 3 or 4 families were staying in that house. In a small room, he had this all encompassing experience. And very, very natural way. That is Vedanta. No, that is Vedanta. No, there is no question of too much exploring this sadhana, that sadhana, nothing. The Upanishad says one boy went to a guru. A very young child, very intelligent, with tremendous fire of Shraddha. And he said, give me that self-knowledge. And the guru asked, just as you have credentials now, he asked, who is your mother, who is your father, what is your family lineage? And the child said, I have my mother, but I do not know anything about my family. And she also is unaware. So this is my detail. But what is your name? He asked. My name is Satyakama. I am hungry for truth. And that is my name. There is the fire of thirst for truth. That is my name. And the Guru did not teach him meditation, did not ask him even to chant some nama, some sadhana, no. Because the very hunger for truth is the mantra that happens inside you. And he found that the boy is already aflame with that. So he gave some cows, some 100, 200 cows. Formerly, when I read this book, Upanishad, this story, I used to wonder, 1,000 cows. When the cows becomes 1,000, you come back. That is the instruction. But if you go to Gujarat, there in the forest, they will have thousands of cows. It's very common. And 2 or 3 people will be looking them, guarding them. Not much. So this is very common. So the Guru said, giving him some few hundreds of cows and said, take them to the forest. Even now in Gujarat they do it. They take the cows to forest and all other families will take care of them. Their family. They will go with the cows and with the bulls also. And the bulls are the protectors inside the forest. So this child went inside the forest, this boy inside the forest, all the while contemplating, because he has already seen the teacher. Perhaps he was there for some days and has absorbed the seed. He is carrying the seed. So he went inside the forest and stayed there looking after the cows, because human beings can disturb you, not cows. That is why the Guru gave him the protection of living with the cows. He took the cows, lived with them, stayed with them in the forest for perhaps few months or few years, we don't know. And the story says, it is not that someday self-realization happened, no. One of the cows, it came to the boy and told, Satyakama, it called. And he looked at the cow and the cow said, we have already become 1,000. Can we go back? See, this is not a cartoon. This is Upanishad. That means he has, one state of yoga, one dimension of realization is that you cross the border of language. Because language limits you so much. If I speak in English, all cannot understand. If I speak in Tamil, many of you cannot understand. So much limitation in communication is there in language. That is why in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is asking Krishna, what is the language in which a sthita prajna, a realized being, communicates? Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha. And that we call as maunam. Bhagavan's maunam was universal. Even birds, even animals. Everyone understood in their own way. When Kashmiri family came to Bhagavan, and with them their servant also came, these people spoke to Bhagavan in English. It was translated. And this servant was very innocent boy sitting there looking at Bhagavan, looking at all of them. And next day, early morning, he went to see Bhagavan. And after a few minutes, he returned and with delight and he told his master, why do you unnecessarily converse with Maharshi in English? He knows Kashmiri very well. He spoke to me in Kashmiri. Bhagavan's maunam, that silence is so universal that Bhagavan might have even spoken in Tamil. He would have translated as Kashmiri. The heart has no language. No? So when this boy was in the forest, he became one with the existence. Naturally, slowly his mind glided into that state. Not only the cows, the trees spoke to him, the birds flying in the sky, they also spoke to him. Every day it was happening while he was coming to the ashram. One day he was taking bath in a pond. There was a water bird there. He called it madgu. And that madgu, that gave him a teaching. One aspect of the knowledge, self-knowledge was spoken by the bird, water bird. And another day he was looking at the sky, looking at the cranes, and they spoke to him. Another day a bull spoke to him. One night he was kindling the fire on the way. And suddenly the fire transfigured and gave him the teaching. And when he arrived in the ashram, The Guru stood up and said, Are Brahmanishta iva bhasi bho. Guru said, oh, you shine forth like a Brahmanishta. Who gave you this knowledge of Brahman? Then the boy said, Oh Lord, no human being gave me the teaching. I gathered the teaching from all these beings, and I have heard from tradition that one has to get the knowledge from an authentic master. So please, you voice the same truth in your voice. Shrutam hi bhagavadrishebhyaha acharyenaiva vidita vidya sadishtam prapaditi. Only when we know from an authentic master, that authenticity will be there in oneself. So please give me the teaching yourself. And the master repeated what he already got. See, even Bhagavan tells this in Ramanacharanatirtha to Arunachala. He says, I have realized the self without an outer teacher. Now you please tell me the same teaching in your voice. He is telling Arunachala. Tattvam theriyadu attanai uttrai. Without knowing the tattvam from an outer master, I have reached that state. Tattvam iduven Arunachala. Anjalendre Arul Arunachala. Tell me the secret of fearlessness. Directly transmit that knowledge through your voice. Give me you can see in Ramanacharanatirtha his conversation with his Guru. Kuttam muttu haruttanai gunamai panittal Guru Uruvayolir Arunachala. Remove all my flaws and shine forth as my Guru and give me the teaching. And the flaws is nothing but ignorance, ajnana. And Arunachala gives him the knowledge of the self. Even the who am I, which Bhagavan gave to everyone, was given by Arunachala. Tirumbi ahamtanai dinamaha kankan. Turn inward, incessantly pay attention to the I within you. Then you will see it revealed. You will experience it in your very being. So this teaching was given by Arunachala to Bhagavan. Bhagavan had, see in Ramakrishna's story, it is very easy to see Ramakrishna conversing with Kali. But Bhagavan's that grandeur, that majesty makes us ignore his devotion and how he spoke to Arunachala. Every day he spoke to Arunachala. Every day he went to hill, had deep communion with Arunachala. Sadhu, in one of his reminiscences, he has said that day, those days he used to come from Tanjavur to see Bhagavan. So one day he asked somebody, where is Bhagavan? I am going back to Tanjavur. Then they said, Bhagavan has gone to hill. So he went, rushed up the hill and did a namaskara to Bhagavan. Bhagavan was perhaps coming back or something. But Bhagavan was not looking at him. He was looking at Arunachala, an absorbed state. And he did a very fast namaskara and said, Bhagavan, na poit varim Bhagavan. I am taking leave, Bhagavan, I am going to Tanjavur. And Bhagavan turned his look and looked at him. Then he says in Tamil there is a usage, Karadi Punda Pala. Siva Pujala Karadi Punda Pala. It is like the entry of a bear in between the worship of Shiva. He says, I was like that. I suddenly felt I did something wrong because Bhagavan is not here. He is one with Arunachala. He was looking at me and was not looking at me. And I felt I should not have so, without any sensitivity, walk like this and tell him, I am going like that. So that was his communion with Arunachala. And Arunachala gave him that experience of death on one side, and on the other side he said, you are the deathless being. And this Tattvamasi, this must be constantly heard. Bhagavan used to say, in Tamil used to say, வரப்பட்ட வாழ்க்கையில நம்ம ஒரு தடவை தத்துவமசின்னு சொன்னா அவ 100 தடவை நம்ம கிட்ட அதத்துவமசின்னு சொல்லுவா. If he expresses, if we tell the people around that you are the self, you are that, they will somehow try to convince us you are not that. That means they will constantly remind you the body, constantly remind you the worldly problems. That is death, you know. That is death. This normal conversation around us. The virus of ignorance is rampant around, that it will come in various forms. Narayana Guru, a sage who came to see Bhagavan, wrote 5 verses where he says, describing Bhagavan, he never asked, what is your name? Where are you coming from? In which place? When are you going back? Please come inside. Go. No normal conversation about body. Only in that state one can be free of death. So this is the Nirvriti Panchakam. The 5 verses on Nirvriti means the state of self-experience, Atmanubhuti. So this was very natural with Bhagavan. But Bhagavan says, if you are exposed to the world will constantly remind you about body, about mind, about ego, about other people, about events and incidents happening around you, about past, about future, pleasure of the past, pain of the past, expected pleasure of the future, or the death that is waiting for you, the separation, pain of separation that is waiting for you, old age. All these things are collectively called Mrityoho Rupani. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says they are all death walking around you in various forms. So to be free of these forces, this is nature. You can call it as nature also, Prakriti. To be free of this, you should have constant satsanga and constantly hearing that you are the deathless spirit. Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi. And Bhagavan says, every day 4 or 5 times he will go up the hill. And why he is so much attached to Arunachala? Paul Brenton says, the sage, I'm not using the same words, the sage is so much in communion with the hill that something of that nature of the hill is visible in him also. He has absorbed the hill so much on him. He was in constant communion with the hill. And can a hill give you self-knowledge? Simply you go to hill and you try to protect Arunachala. I am not saying wrong. But again you think that it is an outer thing. You have to protect it. You can plant trees. You can look after other things. These are all, again, we are giving reality to the world. Formerly Arunachala was only boulders. No, not a single tree. Not even a grass. That was very different. Now it is very green. It's all good. But that days, every day he will go to Arunachala and he has revealed the secret also why he was in communion with Arunachala. He says, whenever you are in communion with Arunachala, or with a jnani. And what is the effect? Constantly you are reminded that you are the Atma, you are the Self. Tattvamasi aruna purulam. Achalat artham ghanam adu ahum. That inwardly Arunachala is the pure awareness, prajnana ghanam. And he will constantly transmit the knowledge, Tattvamasi. You are Brahman. You are the deathless being. You are the Self. So, when you go to the world, the virus of ignorance is there, it has also its own language. The language of ignorance is also universal. You need not learn Tamil to absorb ignorance from here. You just come here, ignorance also can, like any virus, it can walk inside you and you become dull, energyless, low vitality. Then you go to Arunachala or a true satsang where you are reminded that you already have the treasure inside you. A satsang where you are forced again outside is not a satsang. The real satsang means even if you go away from Tiruvannamalai, you carry the knowledge that Atmajnanam, reminding you that you are not a beggar, you are an emperor. Oru kudai nijar kove. Bhagavan says, a ruler under a single umbrella. Oru kudai nijar kove. You are an emperor, you are a Chakravarti. You don't need anything from outside to make you full. You are already full. You are Purna. You are deathless. Your very nature is peace. Your association with mind, your association with body, your association with death in various forms is unreal. Your deathlessness is sahaja. Shanti is sahaja. So, from the Guru's standpoint, he says Tattvamasi. And the Shishya says Shivoham. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. Shivoham. I am the most auspicious being, deathless one. So this recognition happens and you wake up to that inside you, and it is always with you. Wherever you go, in whatever current of destiny you are put, you never forget. Kandar kalankare kan. In Ulladu Narpadu, Bhagavan says, one who has seen the truth, he will never get mixed up, corrupted with the untruth. The untruth will be there, the unreal will be, the flow, various streams of unreality. Death will be constantly flowing because this is a river of time, river made of time, river made of space, river made of death, river made of suffering. It is constantly there. The moment you touch it, you will be taken away. Shayana tallir shaivinai sudum. Bhagavan says, push the mind outside, the force of destiny will burn you. So to keep yourself collected within, to be aware of the self, the Atma within you, is Arunachala Swarupam. And here Bhagavan says, Marana bhavamilla maheshan charaname sharvar Shavadavar Nittar. This song we have already spoken about. Shavadavar Nittar. They are eternal. They have found the eternal, deathless elixir, knowledge within them. That is Bhagavan's Ulladu Narpadu. So these first two songs, two hymns, or what we will call two Venpa, Bhagavan has given the entire essence. Either you inquire or you surrender. In inquiry, Bhagavan constantly communicated that find out what is this I. Or if you are unable to inquire, investigate within you, surrender to Ishvara, to the higher presence. Then naturally you will become one with it. And Bhagavan also did that with Arunachala. Both happens. Inwardly you inquire, outwardly you surrender. Outwardly you surrender, inwardly the inquiry is activated. So this is the first two hymns in Ulladu Narpadu. These two are called Mangala Venpa, the auspicious beginning verses. The first verse is pure Vedanta and second verse Bhakti is added. That surrender to Shiva. Mrityunjayam Mrityubhyashridanam Aham matir mrityumupaiti purvam Athasvabhavad amriteshu teshu Katham punah Mrityudhiyo vakasha. This is the free translation of Ulladu and Narpadu by Kavikanta Ganapati Muni into Saddarshanam. So this is the Samskrita Rupam. And we will enter the Shastram tomorrow. The Shastram begins with Nam Ulagam Kandalal. As we are seeing the world, this is the beginning. Nam means we. Ulagam means world. Kandalal, because we are seeing, we need severe treatment. So the treatment is going to be given. The therapy is going to be given. Because the seeing the world, where you have to see God, you are seeing world, that is an optical problem. So for that we need some kind of medicine. So that medicine Bhagavan is giving here, that we will see. Because first you begin, the world is there, so world is not there. Inwardly you recognize the self. Then when you look at, it is Arunachala Swarupam. In Arunachala Pancharatna, Bhagavan says, Arunachala, everything is your form. In all names and form, you alone are there. As every person, you are there. As every event, you are there. As everything, you are there. So once you have reached that state, with open eyes, you are in Samadhi. You need not meditate. While involved in the world, you have the unbroken Samadhi. So, either you are in Samadhi or the mind is active. So when the mind is active, you see the world. When the mind is not active, you see only Ishvara. The Vishnu Sahasranama begins with Vishwam. The very first name of Vishnu is world. The universe is Vishnu. What you see as world, as man, as woman, as tree, as bird, inwardly as thoughts, as I, everything is Narayana, Arunachala. So this is the absolute experience of Purnatva. Till we reach that, there is every chance of a slip. You close your eyes, you are meditating, open your eyes, you fall. You involve, you fall. You come in contact with some incident, you fall. Because every incident, event will awaken the I in you. I, you, he. So this is Vikalpam. To be free of this disturbance, go on having this listening, meditating. Whenever you sleep means recognition of the non-self. You come back to the self, try to abide there. You need not reach the fullness, but a little bit will give you so much joy. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says even a little bit is enough. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya. Even a little bit of this dharma will rescue you from fear. You need not get the whole. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Will rescue you from great fear. So have a little bit of this nectar. You carry a spoon of this nectar, that is enough. A little drop of this nectar, that is enough. You will have that joy. Ramakrishna used to say that the divine elixir is put in a big can. Why do you unnecessarily research how much liter is there inside? You take a little drop, you are inundated. You have that inundation. So too, that will also give us humility. This self-realization also unnecessarily gives ego. You think you are seeking self-realization? No. You have somehow read that the greatest pride you can have is self-realization. So you are seeking it. So better, onnum theriyadu. I do not know anything. A bhakti is enough. A little bit of knowledge is enough. The true self-realization is like that. Only when you are poked you will know. When some event happens, then the realization comes from within. Otherwise, Bhagavan himself says, Empolum deenarai. I am only deena, an ordinary person, subject to many difficulties. When people used to ask Bhagavan, you know everything, Bhagavan said, I am like you only. I have no any speciality or anything. I am like anyone else. But this knowledge can give you that strength, that courage. So, if you are daring, take this knowledge and try to live it. Then you will be rescued. We will continue tomorrow. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva. Bhagavan, when school teacher came to see Bhagavan, and he asked some doubt, because by the time Bhagavan was known as a great sage, so he asked, Swami, this is the doubt. Then Bhagavan said, fearing your question, I ran away all the way from Madurai to Tiruvannamalai. Now you are torturing me here also. So we'll continue tomorrow.